I'm delighted to have Mary Ibiyemi join me today. Mary and I actually were lucky enough to share um, a discussion on Radio Scotland about names. And interestingly for me, I was approached by Radio Scotland to talk about names and people with non-English sounding or non-Scottish sounding names and how they find getting a job because Mary has a story to tell. And I was to talk from a recruitment perspective, given the job that I have in Brightwork. What it became, when they asked me this question, it was actually a bit of a coincidence because Shan Saba is the shortened version, if you like, of my full name. My parents are originally from Sri Lanka, and my full name is Mahindan Nadana Sabapathy. And then I shared a shared experience with Mary. So it wasn't actually a recruitment story for me. This was really, really personal. And I had a bit of a journey in trying to find a job when I was younger. And I do put it down to the size, the full size of my name, and people couldn't see it. People still can't see it. First of all, I'd like to welcome Mary. Mary Ibiyemi, thank you very much for joining me today on this podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you.
I don't think we should hold back anymore, Mary. Tell me what this your story was published on the BBC website. It was picked up in other outlets of press as well. What happened? What's your story, Mary?
I'm an Irish Nigerian, so I was born in Ireland, but I've moved over here, been here for 5 years. And I've just noticed just through employing for like jobs, etc., that it did become a second thought in my head that like maybe it's because of my surname that I'm not getting this job. Because a lot of the jobs ask for experience, but for a lot of us young people, we don't have the experience that they're wanting simply because we're either going into a first job or we're just wanting to try and get a new one. But they don't take into consideration that they need to like help young people of all ages, even with diverse backgrounds, to like gain employment.
So, you found it difficult to try and find work, and you would say that initially that was because the difficulty of people pronouncing your name or making assumptions about yourself. And can I just before you answer this, I'll tell you a story about me. So I'm older than you, Mary, considerably older than you, but and I would say you're Scottish Nigerian. I would say I'm Sri Lankan Scottish. Irish Nigerian, and I say I'm Sri Lankan Scottish. And this, I recall being younger and applying for my first jobs out of university with my full name. And it took a hell of a long time. I kept spreadsheets. I was struggling. I had kept, there was 170 applications were going out. And I found it really, 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 really hard. And I just struggled to get an interview. And actually, then I did get my first job that I did get was actually with a retailer, and it was with Toys R Us. Actually, no longer exist in the UK, but Toys R Us. Maybe you're younger than me, but they were the biggest toy shop in the UK. And I moved over to Edinburgh. But I remember one of the managers there, is now actually a friend of mine, and he'd seen my name written on the list of the new trainee managers that were coming to start. And this manager was asked that he was going to have to train me. And what he said is, "Oh no, he's not even going to speak English." That was his first thoughts. And he did open and honest about it. And then I turned up and I spoke like this, and it was all great and it was all fine. But that was his first reaction. And to me, it kind of mirrors a little bit of what you're talking about here. But, you're a young person. You're trying to find work. We believe that we live in a society in Scotland that's very accepting and ethnically diverse and open-minded. You found it difficult. Just that story I've just told, it sounds like you found it just as difficult as I did 20 odd years ago.
Yes, it seems like nothing's really changed.
Mhm.
It's like people's perception of us just based on our skin color. Like you just said, it's like we can't speak English. I
Yeah.
actually had an incident happen at work where the customer didn't think I'd know a certain song. And she went on to say, "Oh, I didn't know you could speak good English." Deep down, it's just
Yeah.
like, what is this world?
Yeah.
Like everyone, no matter our race, our color, we're able to we're able to speak English. It's a universal language. It's one everyone needs to know in order to communicate. So that assumption was just shocking when I heard it.
And that would go a little bit deeper than your name, isn't it? Because that's because of your appearance and your look.
Yeah.
And there's an assumption that you don't speak English. I've got to say, Mary, I've been asked that before. I have to say, um, I've been in shops before and I've been asked that question. I've been asked, people ask me for directions, but the first thing they ask me, do you speak English? And I say it's common and it's sad to hear, but also interesting that it doesn't seem to have changed since I was younger or being asked for that. How did that make you feel then, Mary? That somebody's in the shop and they're asking you this and then they're asking that. How do you react to that?
I was just shocked and just like, it took a while to process. It's like, I'm here, I'm in a job. It should be apparent that I can speak English if I'm needing to talk to customers.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's still going on and the people still have that mindset, it's, especially in this like 21st century, it's just strange.
It's strange. Well, it makes me a bit sad, I'm honest with you, but that's it's a society, sadly, that we live in. So we'll go back to, you were looking for work and you're trying to find jobs and you were struggling to get anywhere, really. And I think as a young person trying to find a job now at this time, pandemic, there's the worst affected demographic by the outcomes of the COVID pandemic and the job losses and the removal of furlough and the hospitality industry being non-essential retail, that everything that's been affected, the worst affected demographic is young people. So it's easy for me to talk about these things if I have a job. As I say, I'm being quite sarcastic, and I can talk about these things. I'm in a job. Oh, it's really sad. But you're a young person that's really struggled to find work, coupled with the fact that it's probably been made harder because people can't pronounce your surname and just make an assumption that you don't speak English. How'd that make you feel?
Just sad and just like, what is it that I need to do in order to gain a job? Because you don't get any feedback, you don't get any criticisms. So you're just left to wonder if it is because of your background, of where you come from. Like, if that is the reason why. Because it won't be, you can go to an interview and it won't be it won't be noticeable, but in the back of your head, it's like, ooh, this, it could be because of this, or it could be because of that. And it's just not right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even just for people of diverse backgrounds, what we look to is what a lot of us will look to when applying for a job is if there's other diverse people there. Because if not, we won't feel as included or accepted. We'd feel more of like a token diversity in a certain place, because there's not many other people that we can like relate to or bond with that can share the same experience, that we can talk to about how to go for certain things.
So that's the point. I mean, we're in an age where I would say this is diversity and inclusion has now become a buzzword in employment in workplaces. And actually, from a my personal perspective, sometimes I think diversity and inclusion has become too much of a buzzword because everybody's talking about it, and we must be more diverse. And what we're going to do about it? What we're going to do about it? And yeah, it's great because the conversation started, but it's really, really key. You've just said you're a young person. You're starting out in your life, in your career in Scotland. But if you're looking for a job, you're going to be looking for a company that actually genuinely has diversity in its workplace, and maybe you're looking for people that can be role models for yourself that would attract you to work there. That's absolutely spot on. I would say spot on, maybe. And the reason I say that, Mary, is because I remember, and I'm going back, it seems like I'm an old man now. I feel really old talking to you, but when I first looked for a role in the recruitment sector, in the recruitment industry, I approached all the recruitment agencies in Glasgow, all the recruitment agencies in Edinburgh. I was sending them my CV, I was phoning them, I was getting in touch, I was chasing them up, I was doing all the follow up and doing all those things that you maybe do when you're looking for your first or second job really in life. And I was struggling to get anybody to give me the time to give me an interview. But the one agency and the one company, which I'll never forget, and I won't mention them, but the one company that gave me that interview in a break, the person that brought me in was another Asian man, right? And he had a Asian name, and he was born in Glasgow in Scotland. He brought me in, and he kind of, I would say, even in that hour and a half interview, um, he was supporting me and helping me more than anybody ever had done in my job hunt. And to me, that's always rung true in my head. It's kind of just touching what you said there. I was looking for that person and I wasn't finding him. And then he came. And actually, would you believe, then I got the job off the back of that interview with him. And I've never looked back since. So interesting that you say that. So how do we, what do you think, Mary, as a job seeker, that hiring managers, recruitment agencies, whatever they may be, what do they need to do to make this more fair?
They need to look past race and focus on people's qualifications, or even if they don't have any, just like their potential. They should always be ready to take a chance, especially on young people, because a lot of these jobs, they require experience, but young people can't get a job without experience. So if employers aren't willing to take that step to help young people, then how are they supposed to step into the job industry in the first place?
Yeah. Okay. I think you're it's sometimes looking past the paper, looking past the CV, and knowing that we have a duty of care. Okay, I would say from a recruitment perspective, sometimes as a recruitment consultancy or an agency or a hiring manager will be given a criteria to look for the vacancy. And it might be specific experience or it might be specific skill set. But what we're able to do as hiring managers or as recruitment agencies, we can see through that sometimes and actually say, well, okay, this candidate might not have what you're looking for, but they have the enthusiasm and the drive and the willingness to succeed at this. And sometimes it's up to us as those gatekeepers to try and persuade those people that might be actually making a final decision in recruitment. Now that's easier said than done sometimes, Mary, and from our perspective in the real world. But I suppose it's about stepping back. And how do you feel about, people have mentioned before or talked about before or about having quotas. Now you mentioned this about, you're being the token person. And I've got to say, and it was used in bad taste and humour in the past in some of the jobs I've had years gone by about being the token ethnic person. And actually, I'm using ethnic person because that wasn't the term that was used. It's what we would now class as a racial slur. So if we could wipe the slate clean and say, right, okay, how do we do this? Do we look at quotas? Do we look at positive discrimination, if you like? How do we fix this? Do we need to do something to a bit more drastic, or do you think it's just a mindset that needs changed?
I'd say it's a mindset that would definitely need changed.
Mm-hmm.
We should, because a lot of companies strive to be all inclusive. So they really need to be acting on that, where everyone, regardless of disability or race, are involved, are able to join the company and just achieve their goals, really. We need to get past that, oh, it should be a certain person. Because I've heard just certain workplaces, they could be like, oh, you need to be skinny or you need to be white or black or whatever just to be in this company. And that's just discrimination before people can actually get their foot in the door.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. Everyone should be able to have that experience, have that chance to actually be able to apply and gain an interview for a job.
And I think, you're not saying anything that I don't necessarily believe as well. I think you're absolutely right. There is a mindset, and I think at the deep, there's been a lot of discussion about and training and development about unconscious bias, and people making an assumption on somebody um, at interview stage, at CV stage, with no grounding whatsoever, based on stereotypical views of that person's race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, whatever it may be. And I actually think, Mary, you've hit the nail on the head there, because it's actually what you're saying is just mindset, so that's what's in your mindset. But see if we could actually all play our part in making this easier for people to get work and get past those barriers, you won't need a quota or a percentage quota, or say, well, 6% of the Scottish population are of ethnic backgrounds, so 6% of our workforce should be, or 6%, because it'll just happen. And the best people will get the best jobs, and the best people will focus on their career, and then it will become a much better place. And it's so refreshing to hear that coming from you, Mary, because I've been thinking that. And I think sometimes we need to do a little bit of work and work a bit harder to get people, give people those chances. But it's mindset. I have a bit of it, it's interesting that you're, and I'm sorry to go on here a little bit, Mary, but in Glasgow, we have, I'm sure I could walk out into the street in the city centre and ask somebody about their background and their religion. A dangerous thing to ask in Glasgow, of course, right? But they will have some preconceived conceptions. Let's not hide from the fact that this city, or the west of Scotland, or however you want to describe it, does have a bit of a history in discriminating against people before you even look at colour, based on religion. And it wasn't that long ago that in the UK, and my dad had faced this when he was younger and first starting out, was the line that said, "No Irish, no blacks, and no dogs." And that first one, "No Irish," this is when he was trying to rent a flat, and this is the first one, "No Irish." No Irish has a historical significance in the west of Scotland, because this whole part of the world is built on Irish immigration, and people will say people are proud of their Irish heritage, but they were discriminated against here in not too far from where we're sitting for years. And I think we can't ever stray away from that. I've been racially abused in the past by people who have got who claim to be of Irish heritage, and I think they forget their past. They forget their history, and they forget their past about how their forefathers have struggled in the west of Scotland with discrimination against them. So sorry, I'm going off on a little bit of a slant here, Mary, but this is, given your background has been Irish Nigerian, there's a huge connection here. There is a huge significance to this. Now, if we want to make the world a better place, we want to make Scotland. I want to start with Scotland. Let's make Scotland a better place. You've given us some suggestions, and you're now starting off in your career. 4 or 5 years' time, where do you want to be? How's it going to look for you, Mary? When you're, first of all, you're going to go and study, aren't you? You're going to go and study in a degree. You're going to get a university degree. Tell us about that, and where's it going to take you? What do you want to do?
So I'm going to go to uni at the University of West of Scotland, and I'm going to do journalism, and be able to get my degree from there. I'm also currently with young persons guaranteed leadership program, where we're also trying to help young people from the ages of 16 to 24 be able to gain that experience in the industries that they want to go into. And we've been asking other young people, okay, so what is it you want us to know, so we can go on and tell the Scottish government and just even young Scots, so they can help us take control of, this is what the young people are asking for, this is the resources we need, this is what needs to get done, so everyone feels included, everyone feels like they can actually have that chance to make that step in employment.
Very good. Very good. So you're putting, sounds like you're going to put your experience and your career into helping and supporting the next generation of
Yeah.
Scots come through and help them into employment. Mary, that's admirable. So well done. Fantastic. You've got a very important story, and thank you very much for sharing that. And I think the parallels of speaking with you on Radio Scotland a few weeks back really really hit me hard, because it seems to be you're experiencing very similar, or have experienced very similar situations to what I did much, two or three generations ago, it feels like. And I didn't think it would be the case. And that's pretty sad to hear. But actually, let's address it, let's talk about it, and let's make people think about what they say and how they behave. Mary, thank you so much for joining me
You're
today.
very welcome.
It's been a pleasure. I'm sure we'll keep in touch. So, Mary, Ibiyemi, pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
It was nice talking to you too. Thank you.